Okay, hello everyone. I'm Swarnim, the leader of our project team Jeevan Dhara. As the part of our interviews, we have the privilege of interacting with Mr. Karan Choudhary, a young conservation activist who worked closely with Padma Shri awardee Mr. Rajendra Singh, widely known as the Waterman of India. Mr. Choudhary is currently pursuing his studies at Hindu College, Delhi University, while continuing his work and passion for water sustainability and community-based conversations. So, Mr. Choudhary, how are you?
I'm great. How about you?
I'm fine. So my first question is, what is your nature? What is the nature of your work with issues related to water?
So, Swarnim, I'll tell you a story. I belong from the state of the Waterman of India, as you rightly mentioned. So, I was directly more inclined toward this initiative. What this project does, what this NGO does, is connecting to people through a decentralized approach, through a community-led approach. So it's not about having major grand centralized projects, but it's about connecting to villages, connecting to people over there, giving them the leadership, and then solving problems on the ground level. So, what's the nature of our work? It's basically about first having the traditional way of solving the problems. So, we focus on traditional water harvesting structures, and it's more about how we revive those structures. So, I'll tell you a few things, few structures that we work on. So, we help people in creating structures like johats, which are earthen checks and dams. We have Enicuts, masonry check dams, and bunds, which are basically embankments. And all of this together is constructed not by grand major budgets, but by people of the community. So there's a concept of Shram Dan, which is voluntary labor, which comes from the village itself to instill community ownership among the people. So that's how one we create a sense of ownership among the people of the village, and then we help them to instill their structures so that it helps in regeneration. Then our long-term work is focused on reviving the dried up seasonal rivers by recharging the groundwater in their catchments through these harvesting structures. And then, of course, we have to focus on water literacy and how to educate people about how important it is to conserve these water rivers.
That's very great. And the other question, like my second question is, what is the status of the local water resources and the water have been like, what have been the changes over time? Like if you are talking about the recharge, the groundwater recharge, that thing was very great. So what is the status of
You know that
local water resources?
that's a very important question to ask. So I'll tell you this: what's the status and what was the status before is a better question to ask. So before the intervention of our Sangh, what was the condition? There were many villages which were demarcated as dark zones, extremely low groundwater levels, and rivers like Arwari, they had dried up for decades, for 40 years since 1940s. This led to widespread drought, poor agricultural output, and of course, it's very obvious that there would be forced migration of able-bodied men. So they would migrate to cities, go to work there, and then this would also create a sense of necessity for the women living in the household, an extra burden. So it doesn't just affect the water resources, it affects the community as large. After our Sangh started to intervene in the situation, what big impact that we created was brought from a collective effort. We helped in constructing over 14,000 groundwater structures, and due to that, the groundwater levels got recharged significantly. If I have to give you the number, we revived almost 13 rivers among Sarsa River, Arvari, and Ruparel. And this doesn't help in just the river revival. We have helped in improving the livelihoods of the people. So now there's a reverse migration to the people who went out in cities doing some labor over there. They're coming back in the village, having the leadership and having the ownership of their community and working there. This helps in one increasing the crop production, and one two that people and their livelihood improve significantly. Then one major thing is the ecological balance that our work has created. So it's a return of wildlife, it's a restore of local ecological balance, which is a noticeable increase.
Okay, so you told us about many successful projects. Can you please tell us about any successful project that you have addressed in these issues, and what are the challenges you faced during the implementations?
Well, that's one interesting. So there are many projects that we are working upon, but I'll tell you one of the most successful ones that we have worked upon, which many people know about. So I think you know about the Arwari Sansad, the Arwari River
Yeah,
Parliament.
yeah, we know.
So one major project of our NGO was the Arwari River revival. It was dried up for 40 years through a collaborative effort of almost 72 villages. We were able to revive the catchment area of the river, and now it's successfully flowing again. It has become perennial. This success has led to the formation of what we call the Arwari River Parliament or the Arwari Sansad. It's a unique example of local self-governance where villages on their own set their rules for their sustainable management for their rivers, waters, and resources, which is one major thing that should be widespread pan India. This local governance has helped for the revival of this river. This has also helped in the village empowerment. In villages like Gopalpura, the initial construction of a Johat, which is a check dam, proved the efficacy of the traditional methods and how much these methods are efficient in restoring the well water resources.
Okay, so
Now,
you,
I'll also like to tell you some implementation challenges. So,
yeah,
no success story comes without the challenges that we have to face.
exactly.
So, exactly. So, there were three major challenges. One was the political and the administrative resistance. So it's very obvious if you go to any uh, local government or if you go to any local leadership, what they'll aim for is they have a great budget, a great project which is centralized. What we aim for is a decentralized community led project because implementation is the main thing. So there was a lot of resistance and a skepticism for our projects compared to the centralized projects which were not widespreadly implemented. So what we aimed was that we convinced those people, we convinced the local governments to implement our way, and it was a big success. The other challenge that we faced were the illegal mining that was happening in the area. So I'll set the context for you. Uh, there were struggles against mining mafias in the area. So in the Ravli range, there are a lot of mining mafias. There are illegal and unsustainable mining activities that happen there. And what this leads to is it leads to devastation of the ecosystem. It threatens the local community's water security. And what this risk as whole is the community as large. While these mafias just extort their money, they don't care about the physical risk that our activists are put in to show the resistance against these mining activities. Uh, the third major challenge was, of course, financial sustainability. So it's like so while we manage our labor through the concept of shram, where community on their own give their labor, but we need to secure funds for materials and organizational support, which is a continuous effort. So what we encourage is communities to have a 25% of the construction cost, but of course, we need a lot more long-term external support, and it remains vital for us. So these are the three main implementation challenges that our NGO faces, and also we have a great success in these projects because these challenges come in hand in hand.
Okay, so you mentioned a lot about the organization, like your organization engaging with the local community, especially in the village area, especially in a area like Rajasthan. It is very like the water is very necessary there. So, how has your organization engaged with the local community for conservation and rejuvenation of the water resources?
Is based on a semi-arid and arid area. Of course, water resources are very scarce, and community engagement is a paramount thing that our NGO works on. So, as I stated before, it's a decentralized and a community led approach in which the community has to come forward and community has to engage for the conservation and rejuvenation of the water rivers. So, what we aim for is a co development and a ownership from the community itself. So, I told you about the volunteer label that comes in. I'll tell you about the community ownership that people take in the construction of these projects. And then we also encourage decision making in these communities. We don't just tell them what they need to do. We tell them about how the decision making is needed. We also give them the leadership and the empowerment so that they can maintain and continue the fight for the effort of continuous effort of the project that we are working upon. So there's community leadership that also enthusiastically works upon our projects, which is like we give them a name of local leadership, which is a water champion. So, a water champion is, and especially women's and local leaders who are most affected by the water scarcity, we call them the water champions, and they directly address the heavy burden placed on the girls and women and every other people who are directly affected from these people. One very important thing that we have brought upon is the Gram Sabhas and the river parliaments. So I already told you about the Arwari River Parliament, the Arwari Sansad. It's wide known that it was a concept, and this has helped in the local democracy of the revival of these rivers. This has helped in local democratic governance for the natural resources, and not just that. It has also brought a sense of ownership of our own resources, of our own community. And I was also one person that was brought into these projects by this particular water parliament. So it was so interesting to me. It struck me so much that I was passionate about it, and I knew my cause, and I started working on it. That's when I joined Tarun Bharat Sangh. Then one major thing that we do is work on water literacy. So not just having people beyond not just having people who have already worked upon it, but there's a need of spreading this literacy among newly members and among the new villages that have not worked upon it yet. So we give them the literacy campaigns. We ensure that every community member understands the hydrological cycle, the importance of groundwater recharge, and the interconnectedness of water, soil, and forest. The knowledge is crucial for the long-term sustainability of the projects. And Swarnim, I'll end, the whole of what we do with one thing that Galib wrote, that हमें पता है जन्नत की हकीकत क्या है, पर दिल को खुश रखने के लिए गालिब ये ख्याल अच्छा है. बस इसी ख्याल के साथ हम अपना काम बढ़ाते जाएंगे और रिवर्स को रिवाइव करते जाएंगे. एंड दिस इज व्हाट आई एनजीओ एम्स एट. थैंक यू.
So that was a very impactful ending. Thank you so much, Mr. Karan.